and hopefully we can do it again, like a different way.
Whoa.
Hey, B-Day. You gotta apologize to someone right here.
He beat me up, so I'm sorry.
Well, listen, guys, I've got to say, it's been a tremendous pleasure working with all of you all week. I'm looking forward to the one-on-ones, the tag teams, whatever else comes later down the line. But for now, enjoy the night. Congratulations to all of you. Great night.
Crimea is heating up with another supply depot going up in smoke, and Zelensky has declared that the Crimean...
We're gonna knock that off. Get back on
The
this.
load, our concern, wasn't significantly affected by the BIOS update. We'll come back to this chart later and explain it more, but what you need to know is that the P cores and the E cores, which are the two clusters of lines, remain about the same.
1 second while I go check on the computer downstairs.
Frequency 1.0.6 is listed as a critical update based on the Dell Security Advisory number 45 says EMC VX Rail security update for multiple third-party component vulnerability. And 1.1.0 is listed as critical based on advisory number 95, which says, quote, Dell client BIOS security update for a buffer underflow vulnerability, as well as advisory 99, forcing automatic BIOS updates on unsuspecting users is risky business, so hopefully these are truly critical patches, but if so, their frequency is still alarming. Speaking of a different kind of frequency, onto thermal and frequency testing with the R15's new 240mm CLC. This was a big marketing point for Dell, so it has to be done right. Looking at frequency first, after our 3-minute initial idle period, we start a multi-threaded Blender workload that pushes the average P-core clock to 5.5 GHz. That instantly drops off to just under 5 GHz, which is way below spec. The Dell E-cores hold steady state just under 3.8, and after a minute, the power limit drops, and that's a Dell thing, and downclocks the P-cores to about 4.4 GHz, and the E-core is 3.4. We'll highlight on the graph where these numbers should be. According to official guidance and spec, the 13900K should run P-cores at a steady 5.2 GHz average, and the E-cores at 4.2 to 4.3. In addition,
Who's on the
E-cores
roster
can
tonight?
spike above 5.2 with better cooling. Dell is allowed to lower the power limits as it sees fit, but it's pretty pathetic for a system that's $4,400 on sale and comes with Alienware's top-of-the-line cooler and all of its thermal bragging. Again, we were able to use Blender to confirm that CPU behavior didn't significantly change between BIOS versions. On version 1.1.0, peak CPU core temperature immediately spiked to 87 degrees Celsius during the initial 1-minute boost period. Then it fell off and stabilized around 80 degrees. That means that none of the cores ever hit a temperature that would be flagged as a thermal throttle point, although modern Intel and AMD CPUs boost higher the cooler they are. But back to the negatives. In the course of game testing, we noticed that some cores on the 13900K have got excessively hot in short, bursty workloads in a way that wasn't reflected in our all-core torture test. We decided to loop the 4K Total War Warhammer 3 battle benchmark for 45 minutes to see how bad it would get, and it got pretty bad. This is a game. not an extremely heavy CPU workload, and it's a GPU bottleneck. After the system warmed up, we observed peak core temperatures of up to 97 degrees Celsius in short bursts, which caused very brief thermal throttling on the affected cores in the worst instances. It's not enough to cause performance problems at our max ambient temperature of 22 degrees Celsius, but we should never be seeing temperatures that high in a normal game. With an isolated firmware workload to look at the GPU, we saw it hit 75 degrees Celsius with peak hotspot temperatures just over 85. After the fans caught up and the core hit steady state, temperature leveled out at 73 with GPU fans at 52%. For a GPU installed inside a system, this is reasonable. Dell's GPU cooler is actually fine, and they've done well in our testing in the past. It's one of the few enthusiast parts that Dell customizes that actually comes out pretty well, and the cutouts on the side panel are helping this time. The R15 deserves some praise here for putting effort towards improving GPU cooling, especially since we've confirmed that the card performs at the level we'd expect for a stock 4090, so they've at least done well here. We run Cinebench R23 internally on all of our CPUs, so we know that the Aurora R15s at 13900KF should score about 39,065 points multi-threaded and 2,200 points single-threaded in order to match our baseline 3900K result from earlier this year. Instead, the R15 averaged 34,324 points in multi-threaded, and then it did hit 2221 in single-threaded, so it's spot on for single-threaded performance, but our stock 13900K is 14% ahead in multi-threaded performance, and this is definitely because of the power limit set by Dell. And it'll probably get a lot worse. Cinebench's multi-threaded bench completes inside of a typical 1-minute tau window for PL2, at least under old guidance.
Are you friendly?
It illustrates that better. Our standard 13900K on the bench took 6.6 minutes to render one frame of our GM logo animation. The Alienware's 13900KF, which is the same spec, took 8 minutes. That means the correct configuration completes in 18% less time than Alienware's. Nerfing power limits affects multi-threaded workloads more heavily, but we'll check whether it has any impact on games next. And either way, the 13900KF in this system is already guaranteed as a waste of money. Its primary advantage over the 13700K, which is cheaper, is the additional E-cores, and Dell has blown that advantage by downclocking. If you watched our R13 review, you may remember that we had exactly the same complaint about Dell downgrading the 12900KF to a 12700K class performance in the exact same way. So they have not.
Losers.
Getting to the game testing, we're not going to test
Fucking losers. Both of you came after me. I have nothing.
13900K. It's going to be the best. That's what those parts do. And it's not.
Can you even hear me? Or are you guys just not talking? What the fuck's going on?
Is test Alienware's component choices, such as the memory in combination with the CPU, against a more standard test bench that we use for our reviews process. The purpose for that is just to make sure that Alienware's parts here are living up to their max potential, as Alienware said. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1080p against our CPU bench results, where we're CPU bound, the Alienware R15 ran at 246 FPS average. Our baseline was 304 FPS average. That's a 24% increase for our test bench, meaning Alienware is underperforming. Both the R15 and our bench were equipped with 4090s for these tests, so it's the combination of CPU power restrictions and significantly slower memory netting this massive deficit. We use DDR5 6000 for CPU testing, and while we don't expect a pre-built or an SI to overclock the memory in a real way, it at least shows that the choice of basically the slowest DDR5 4800 on the market is restricting the CPU. You might as well just use a cheaper CPU for this build. Comparing the Dell 4090 to the 4090 FE, we at least see that Horizon Zero Dawn at 4K averaged the same frame rate. This is within acceptable margin of a baseline GPU. Dell's GPUs have generally been one of the stronger points in our Alienware reviews, and here they are not underperforming when GPU bound, so that much is good. Noise is brief this time. Compared to the R13, it is better. So Alienware did improve here. After some initial hysteresis during CPU boosting, we ended up landing at about a 40.6 dBA max noise level at a 20-inch distance and a noise floor of 26, and then it gradually rose and fluctuated a little bit, but it's significantly better than the R13's 45.5 dBA, so they have improved in this respect. It's a little bit bouncy on sort of the fan RPM and the actual fan ramp, but the noise level is lower. We're done with benchmarks now. Let's get into the setup and the BIOS and software. Our R15 came with the obligatory bottom-of-the-barrel Dell mouse and keyboard set, a weirdly bulky wireless antenna, and a heavy-duty 14-gauge power cable, which was a nice touch. The paper quick start guide is only 4 steps long, but it covers all the necessary bases. We've never had an Alienware system show up damaged or incorrectly assembled, so credit to Dell for that. A lot of their competitors can't handle that much, and that holds true for the R15. For better and for worse, this system is packed to the brim with all kinds of over-engineered bits of metal, tons of plastic, and foam, and it's all meticulously put together in the assembly line to protect it in shipping, and it works. We noticed a curious coating of dust, though, on the heatsink side of the GPU fan blades, which is bizarre. We hope it's just dust from the 4090 sitting around unused at Dell's warehouse or factory, but our concern was that this was used in any significant way, or maybe even a refurb, although that seems like it shouldn't be possible. But then again, maybe that's why it's on sale right now. Maybe they're sitting around and they're having trouble shifting GPUs like everyone else. Anyway, booting the system for the first time led to the usual obnoxious OEM-specific screens. There's a Dell EULA, there's a contact info form, and there's checkbox for Alienware update notifications. Alienware gives you a warranty registration pop-up and a yes, I have read the privacy policy button. And we left the contact info form blank, and we didn't say we read the privacy policy, we didn't check any boxes, and it still worked. So apparently the boxes aren't necessary. On to BIOS, the options haven't changed much since our last Alienware review. There's a toggle labeled overclocking feature, like singular, that's disabled by default, and when enabled, core overclocking level can be set to OC level 1, OC level 2, or customization. Customization includes options for core ratio limit override, core voltage override, long duration power limit, and short duration power limit. The CPU is an unlocked 13900K app, so there should be either more detailed overclocking settings, or Dell shouldn't be shipping K-SKU chips. We lean towards the latter in this instance because the computer is not built for overclocking in any meaningful way, despite the marketing claims we mentioned earlier. Otherwise, BIOS options were limited. The memory speed was set to 4,800 megatransfers per second, which is correct for this non-XMP kit. The memory controller ratio was set to Gear 2, which is the slow option. Rebar was enabled, which is good, and BitLocker was also set to enabled, but it does require you to sign in to the Microsoft account system. Inside the OS, we got a couple of familiar ready-to-register pop-ups, the usual suite of Alienware bloatware for service and RGB control, but it's all first-party bloat, and there's no limited-time, obnoxious antivirus trial, so that much was good. This isn't the worst Alienware system we've reviewed, but it's still pretty bad as a pre-built. We wouldn't recommend it. It's not as much of a train wreck. They've made improvements, but they're not good enough. The parts are still underperforming versus the actual guidance or spec, except for the GPU, which has been an exception for Alienware. They are prioritizing looks, and for some reason continue to prioritize using this specific chassis, as in the underframe, for all of their Alienware boxes. We'd imagine it has to do with the sunk cost, again, sunk cost fallacy coming into play here, where they're looking at it going, well, you said that we managed to ship these things without issues. That requires all these custom fit and design processes in the assembly line and manufacturing, and that stuff would have to change with the new case. Sure, lots of things have to change with the new case, but that's because the new case, and you're not allowing the product to stagnate and be just kind of boring, or in this case, improperly configured to where it doesn't even perform as it should. With the Black Friday and July price of $4,430, it is, yes, lower, but you're still losing the performance of a 13900K in significant ways, even in gaming, where we were dropping down to lower SKU CPU specs, like 13700 or 600 even, for example. And at that point, you might as well just buy a cheaper system with a lower end part that gets equivalent performance, because why spend extra on something that can't even hit the targeted clocks? But the good news is that there have been specific attempts at improvements that we like. So, for example, there's a larger cooler, which it needed. There's ventilation on the side panel, which it needed, and actually still needs. But those attempts at improvements are hampered by the visual design taking priority. Compromises like lowering the power limits in order to fit in this case don't make sense. It's approaching design backwards. They need to approach function first, performance first, and then come back around to what do we do about making it look like how we want it to look. So they're it's a big miss there, and it will continue to be, because this problem is only going to get worse as components continue to consume more and more power, because the space, it's becoming ever more restricted for that heat load. The biggest knock against this is the power limits and the cooling, but aside from that, it's basically, there's no reason to have 13900K in here when it's performing like a 13.7, for example. Also, the RAM sucks, which is okay for a lot of pre-builds, but this one, once again, it's about the pairing. That's the part of a pre-built that is supposed to be done well for a user who's buying one, because they don't want to deal with it. So if you're going to use the highest on CPU and GPU, you need to use RAM that doesn't artificially limit those in a significant way. It doesn't have to be the best overclock RAM on the market, but not literally the worst would be a good start. So that's the Alienware R15. Yes, they have made improvements. No, they are not sufficient. And we are not confident that Alienware can improve this specific chassis in a way where we'll really ever be happy with it, because just physically they can't keep the shape and the paneling and all the plastic and still improve the cooling in a way where they don't have to restrict the power anymore. So that's for this one. We'd say buy from a different SI or pre-built manufacturer instead, or even one of Dell's non-Alienware like XPS systems or something that is built in a way that it's not prioritizing a 20-year-old internal chassis with some plastic bolted onto it over basic functions. So that's it for this one. Even at $4,400, July 23 discount. Not for us. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more as always. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to help fund our next purchase of our pre-build. We have found good ones in the past. Hopefully we'll find good ones again. You can also go to patreon.com/gamersnexus to help out directly with our testing and independent reporting. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Hey going everyone, me again with my microphone, just watching this booty shaking video and...
Hello Internet, today is a special day. I would like...
Are those our enemies? This won't take long.
To introduce you the GPU that started it all. Well, almost. The GPU that started it all looks almost identical. 1070. I owned my own 1070 a while back, and that when the GPU prices started happening, and for whatever reason, my GPU stopped working, and I ended up basically, hold on a sec, I basically ended up fixing my own GPU by simply running a memory test, and I had to learn how to replace the memory stick, the memory chips. And then here we are, about a couple of years later or so, something like that, fixing all sorts of stuff. So let's take this thing apart real quick and see what's going on. The guy said that the fan spins very fast, but there's no image, so we're not going to try that. We are not going to do any kind of diagnostics.
Be salty about that the whole entire game now that I missed your head.
Apart. Let's see. This has been a long time since I've taken a card apart like this. Brings back all sorts of memories. I actually killed a few of them too.
I said yikes.
You know,
I
that's
must
how
stop
you
there
learn.
right now.
Get a bunch of CPUs and kill about half of them, fix them. Before you know it, you become a GPU repair expert.
Here.
That's how it worked for me anyway.
Ooh, I hope they push like that.
Having a luxury,
You're gonna wipe them.
being able to buy a few of them at a time, stumbled upon a miner. He had like 16 of them or something, or 8, I don't know, 8 or 16. So he sold them all at once, you know, for maybe
Spike
a
down
$100,
mid.
maybe maybe $400. I don't remember. The price was really good. I think I bought them for
One
like $6
enemy
each or
remaining.
something. $6 to $80 each 2 years ago for $10.70. That was a steal. And so I was able to fix most of them, and then do a ton
Why
of them.
buy skins when you can harvest them off
Which was
of
fun.
bodies?
So
Exactly. I feel like it's even better then because you're actually like
today we're not going to be killing any GPUs.
not just having your
Yeah.
parents' credit
Today
card.
we're going to be fixing.
There's so many 12 years like I spent so much
If
money
we
on this
can't,
game.
however,
Like,
because I don't know.
okay, so you ask your
I don't know
parents
if
to
we
buy
can
you
fix this one
skins.
or
That's
not.
like lame as hell.
Only time will
Get a
tell.
job,
And you
like
guys
honestly.
always know how to do this.
Yeah.
We are
Honestly,
testing
Valorant's
for.
like a new
Are you
Fortnite.
kids okay?
Okay.
They're big.
Mainly, I'm
Yeah,
concerned
I
about
know
the short
they're
circuit.
coming.
12 volts.
For you.
No shorts on 12 on the PCI slot. What about
One
12
enemy
volts up
remaining.
here?
Ace, let me try to ace.
Down B.
I think this is 5 volts.
A.
That's the problem right there.
Job.
What about a memory?
I got an
Short on
assist on
memory.
almost all
Okay.
of those.
Very
Like
bad.
5 assists.
No, actually,
Look
5
at
volts
oh
is
my!
here.
I have 5 assists.
Correction. 5 volts
Oh,
is here.
frick.
13K in here.
Thank you for opening fire on all.
It has been a while. I don't remember. What about here?
I didn't. I just
Pex.
recombat
Okay,
it
so
for you.
Pex is short.
Oh, well, thank you.
Memory
That
is
helped me.
short.
Hey,
They rush really
And
badly.
this is 1.8. So,
It has to be A this time.
okay. I think we have a dead card here.
I say that was a pretty good use of my ult.
Boy. Let's do a
No
very
one's
quick,
doing it.
simple, and easy diagnostic that anybody can do. I'm gonna turn on the
I hate
exhaust,
to say it, but I think they're still B.
and
raise B.
we'll bring
Nope,
in the
they're going
fan,
mid to A.
Mid to A, yeah.
and we're gonna start lifting these coils.
You could throw
Spike
in
down mid.
If there's nothing
a
else
fireball down there, and it would have gotten
at
you.
this point that I
It
need
would've
to
done
do.
enough damage.
It would have.
Shotguns.
I think we have a dead cord.
Baiting you.
Well, I don't want to be that guy.
No, she's not. She's
Who
actually.
is
She's going A.
99% right, and then 1% wrong.
One enemy
I want to be
Got her.
100%
Suck on the
Spike
dick,
down
bitch.
A.
because
Why are you doing that?
the
Don't do that.
reputation. My name is on there. It took me a while to get where I'm at, and
Nice, Reina.
I value my reputation.
What the fuck am I?
So I'm not just gonna say
Don't worry about it. I
He's
feel
a
like
dead cord.
I should set up some sort of a.
I'm gonna prove it to
serve
myself
you guys pancakes and shit.
that it is
That's what I'm here
indeed that cord.
I didn't know you were.
Wait, how
old.
old do you
What
think
better
I
way
am?
to do it
I gotta know how old do you think I
Then
am?
to lift the coil
47.
and inject voltage.
I'd say like probably like 15.
Then we'll see exactly what's
21.
going on.
Who cares about someone's age? Jesus Christ.
Some of you repair experts are probably gonna be like, dude,
I
you're
ain't trying to
wasting your
fuck
time.
you.
I couldn't agree more. But a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my god, what if,
Or they're baiting? No, they're.
what if there's a capacitor somewhere? Short.
Open.
I don't want to do that.
Got the spike?
Spike down B.
That one little what if
Alright, so they're all over Spike.
is the reason why
Astra killed
people
me.
trust me.
She's coming. She's gonna be in window.
Or I hope so. Who knows? Who cares?
One enemy remaining.
Done.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh my
I'm
god.
gonna let it cool down just a little bit.
I'm so good.
Good job.
Wipe that stuff off.
Good.
And that's all I did. I just lifted one end of the coil
They're gonna forfeit.
for the PEX, for the memory,
Thank
and
you.
for the 1.8. So that way,
Trade
I
you.
know-
Got 5 assists.
Where's that phantom, sir?
if the short is on this side,
Someone gave it to me. Was
I
that
gave
nice?
like
it-
slice
okay,
steak
never
with the
mind.
PEX.
No, I
Bye.
gave it to
If the
Bruno.
short is on this side,
Hey, you want this phantom? I'll trade you, Brim.
It's a bit.
This map is really good for ratting with shotguns.
However, there could be
This is a
a short
phantom?
capacitor. You know, there are capacitors along the way to the core.
Are they still
And
going
so
B?
but we gotta
How are
test
these
that.
people
You
so
know.
retarded?
I'm pretty sure it's a dead core, but
How are they still going A?
I'm like that, you know.
Watch out for Yorio.
Like that.
Yorio's back.
Even based on my experience, I'm not gonna fail. Okay, let's see.
Oh my god. My aim
Let's
sucks.
see if we have a B.
Say it hold back.
Yep, we have a dead short.
You're
Apex?
teleport shit on me, I think.
You ever pull witchcraft on you?
But I'm sure it's a dead
Okay.
short.
Spike planted.
That's crazy.
Dead short at 1.8.
I think they planted A.
And dead short on memory. Okay.
Last player
So-
standing.
God damn it.
But if you measure it on the other side,
One enemy
you're right
remaining.
there.
She looking that long.
The other end. No.
Nice try.
That must have been good damage.
20 kilo ohms on tech.
That was like 30
Without
because I
well.
hit her head, but it was too far away.
4K
Oh,
on
If I was
memory.
literally 5 feet
What about
closer, that would
1.8?
have killed her.
60K on
I
1.8.
hit their
Okay.
Astra for
Who
100
cares? So,
because I double shock rated her.
what I'll do now, is I will inject some voltage
Anyway, it's good. They might not forfeit now.
into,
Together.
You're still gonna forfeit. Just wait.
I'm going to inject 1 volt into each of these rails. So, let's see. If I
Fire
can.
in the hole.
And then we're going to look at a thermal
B
camera
again? These people are retarded.
and see what starts glowing. If I find a camera. Yeah, hold on a sec. I need to go get my phone. I'll be right
Spike
back.
planted.
Alright, thermal camera is here, lights out. Let's see. Focus on here.
Alright, so
Don't
Astra's right
focus
there
on
with fucking.
anything.
One enemy remaining.
We have a good.
Last
Okay, so
player
let's
standing.
put
I was on
1.8.
the reload.
The
My
DP.
bad.
Let's energize 1.8.
Good job, you guys.
What do we get?
You failed. Now sleep. Scanning ahead.
My smokes can block the enemy's line of sight. Once they're blind, we
I don't see nothing. Okay, let's energize the memory. I don't see nothing.
I don't know. I gotta go B. Reyna.
And
can you
let's
please
energize
move
the
it?
text.
Because if they all push B again, I can alt them.
Oh, do you want me to do my
I
recon
see
dart
that.
again?
I see absolutely nothing. Okay,
Okay, recon dart coming.
what do we do now? Since the thermal camera doesn't show us anything,
Mid.
Tower.
next, for the sake of entertainment, I'll remove the floor. And the very last
I got one here.
two that we may have already get,
Yep, she's trapped.
is to lift
Did that get her?
One enemy
Yeah, good
remaining.
job. Who knew that?
Be dead.
Once we lift the core,
Oh,
quick circuit
Team Ace.
Good job.
theoretically
They
should
have
go
seen
away,
our power.
giving us a
Sure.
1000%
The symphony of
accurate
that's it.
diagnostic.
Longer to
Because
the
sometimes
backside.
100%
I
is
win.
good. Sometimes we
I
want to
think
go
this might
up.
actually be the
Let's get this thing
A round.
diagnosed with a
I
1000%
think so. I don't know.
accuracy.
Brent, who died last round?
That'll take just a second.
I did. I tried to fight you and killed you.
Oh, I did.
Core is up.
Oh, it was you. How dare you? No.
Who's next?
Alright. I'm
They're
going
gonna
to,
go B or something mid through B again.
because sometimes 100% is good.
kill
Stay
my
quiet.
allies.
Sometimes we want to go 1000%. So let's get this thing diagnosed with a 1000%
Spike down B.
accuracy.
One enemy remaining.
That'll take just a second.
No more hunting.
Oh, okay. There's
Forward
that.
is up.
Reyna.
Like my services are done.
My
I should
cleavage
cook
is
you
never
guys
full.
pancakes.
That will
I feel
take
like
just a
this is-
second.
I feel like we're like wiping them too easily. Like this is too easy.
Or is that?
It is. It's a bad match.
Yeah.
There we go. Alright. I'm going to
I mean, I'm glad
And
to
plus,
the
Phoenix
ride.
clean this place
Smurfing,
up
not
real
joking,
quick. Just a little bit. Not
Bro, I'm
entirely.
only bronze
Am
1 and
I?
I almost deranked.
Yeah, you never
I'm
know.
about
See
to
if we
get
have a
back to
short on the
bronze
chip.
but
So
getting
the
brain
ground
dead
is
teammates.
I was about to
then
be
again,
Iron
I
One.
the brain dead teammate.
measure the caps on the top.
Some people have...
Yep. 0 ohms. And then the text is somewhere here.
Mid 74.
I don't remember what text is. Probably here. Yeah.
No, you're
Short.
He's
So
trying to break
this
the wall.
board
He
is
just broke the
obviously
wall.
toast.
He's in heaven.
The
You're
the
better.
board now go down.
Heaven.
I'm Iron.
What the board says,
Reloaded. Watch them run when
and the board says,
That's when we
I
strike.
feel so bad because we're beating
You're
them too
iron.
easily. We should start throwing rounds.
keep breaking these.
Hey, everybody buy a shorty and only use the shorty.
Anyway,
Only use pistols.
we got
We should
20,
get like
almost
really, we should get like one away from
15K
Only
home.
on
use
the
pistols
text
for the last 2
without the
rounds.
court.
Yeah, that's fair.
Are we doing a short?
We
game?
got
Not doing
200,
it?
almost
next
400
round. You guys
wanna
almost
party
on the
up?
memory, which is exactly what
No.
Sure, why
I
not?
expected. For 1.8,
Revealing area.
900 ohms. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So now all the readings are great. I believe that even the memory spot, I can't really tell. Because the resistance is good, but I can't tell until we get a core that's working. And
One to your right. You're gonna get hit.
I peeked.
Raina, yep. Oh my god. How do you not hear him?
Learn something today.
Because you guys made me take a shorty.
Oh,
Dumbasses.
Thanks for coming.
That was a whiff.
And
Shorty
if
time.
any of you need a
I'm not participating. I already participated last round.
You know where to find me. Listen,
Well, participate. Or you're gay.
I think you are. You're the one who's asking other men to join you in a party. Maybe figure it out.
Oh,
But
that was
back-
me.
Ask
That
anybody.
was me,
Everybody,
my
how's it
bad.
going? Hope you're loving
Well,
it.
he said something, and then I think you agreed to join with him.
Ad blockers that we may be
So
coming
if I'm
close to
iron
the
Said
end
sure,
of.
why
iron
not?
too, should
So
I
maybe have some self-awareness before you call someone else out for being gay or whatever you think. Trying to insult them that way, you fucking zoomer.
Are you just like the stereotypical average predator or something?
Spike down B.
Average what?
Average redditor.
I think we're making a soul.
Redditor? Are you stupid? I'm fucking... Oh my god, how young are you? Redditor? What's wrong with you, zoomer kids? You guys know there was things before Reddit, right?
Oh, so you were in MySpace. That's how old you are.
Is that what you think Reddit is? MySpace? Are you fucking stupid? Now you got on my nerves,
This
kid.
man can't hear apparently.
I can't hear. I just heard you talk about MySpace when we were talking about Reddit. Maybe think about like 4chan, 8chan,
One
places
enemy
where
remaining.
Reddit stole from. Hey, Johnny
There's
Flash.
someone on with their defuse. Up on it. Why are you guys
Let's
arguing?
turn, you guys. Yeah, let's not argue.
My ult's ready.
Oh, because I hate Zoomers and he made himself apparent that he is one.
No, he made some comments you found offensive.
Switching sides.
Why don't you like Zoomers?
Why do you run your tongue like that?
What must be done?
What do you mean?
I mean, your verbal game is weak, bro. Shut your mouth, zip it up, and don't talk for the rest of the game.
I'm
Bro, why are
21
you
and
so
4.
mad?
You're 11 and 5.
I'm 11 and 5. Okay. Says who?
Yeah. The game?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Listen. Okay. I both agree that like scores aren't the only thing that determines a person's right to talk, and obviously the homosexual comments were offensive to some
Track
people in
them
the room.
down.
So can we bury it?
Nah, I'd rather keep it going and keep the content up. I make money off this shit. Thank you. Have a good night. I'll be here all week. Been doing this since 2005.
Window.
One garage.
One enemy remaining.
Now he's on spike.
Honestly, I think what was more offensive to me was that this kid called Reddit MySpace.
Time for a protein shake.
I didn't call Reddit MySpace.
You made the comparison that one was like the other or something.
No, I didn't. I said, you said there was things beforehand, and I said, so you were in MySpace. That's how old you are.
But we were talking about Reddit. What?
Wait, Sage.
We weren't really talking.
If you Zoomers, aren't you,
You
a
were
Zoomer?
arguing.
Did you say you were 21?
I'm fucking 40, bro. Come on now. I literally just turned 40. I'm 40 in 1 month. Yep, I'm arguing with a 20-year-old who wanted to start running his mouth at me. Yep, I am. Congratulations, you're an adult. Take it like a man. Welcome to the real world, buddy.
Healing.
Enemy spotted B.
Go get that credit card debt. Live on your future.
See, we shouldn't be angry at each other though. Like, we should be angry at the boomers because they fucked all of us.
I am. I'm angry at all of you.
I feel like I've gotten more kills since you guys have been arguing though.
I feel like Gen Z is annoying, right? Like, I'll admit that. My generation's a bunch of, like, for the most part, like, pussy-ass people who don't want to work and they complain about shit. But, like, every generation's pretty bad.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh fuck! Oh my god, I'm gonna die. I only have a handgun. Save me, Johnny. Save me.
Did they nerf the heals with Sage?
Match point.
I think
She
so.
used
For
to always
herself.
have the 100 as well.
Oh yeah, she's got fucked.
Do you guys want to throw rounds or you just want to finish this?
I'd like to finish this and
kinda
get
just
away
wanna
from you
finish it.
as soon as possible.
Alright.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Get off
Goodbye.
fights or something.
Yeah, let's knife fight. I can do that. Where are we knifing?
One guy just wanted to finish it though. What do we all think?
I was the guy who wanted to finish it, but if you say knife, let's knife.
Oh,
I'll knife, I'll
fight, you
knife.
down? Alright, let's knife.
At least you guys know how to have fun some way. Oh, no, Reina! No.
Flanked.
Rain is down.
That's an automatic knife. Phoenix knife, not Judge knife.
Okay.
Ah! I still tried to knife her. I'm sorry. She killed me with a gun.
Last player standing.
Yeah, they're not playing fair.
Oh, they don't. Okay, now we
We just
go
wipe 'em.
all ops. Now we go all ops.
I'm getting an Odin.
Yes, all
So,
Odins. Just
like-
spray it down.
Why would they even? Because as if that's gonna make a difference in the outcome, you know? Like,
And the last thing
there's
they'll
no
see
difference.
before they die. Lucky them.
All Odins, wipe it down.
I can't afford Noon, but that's fine. I'll just go.
I got an Odin skin, the new one, if anyone wants.
Did your mommy pay for it with her credit card?
I am also 40, but thank you.
I'm just saying, these people were making fun of people having skins earlier or something. Like, yo,
Yeah, because
that
there's so
doesn't
many,
make you not
My
skilled.
kids actually got me a gift card for the game. I bought his skin with it.
Yep, I bought my buddy a fucking gift card for his 40th birthday, and he bought skins with it. Considering the game is free and I used to pay $60 per fucking cartridge, I think this is okay to spend a couple dollars on. I've gotten my 2 years plus out of this game.
Backside. Or not backside, front side rather.
One enemy remaining.
Good job, guys. Good job.
All myself.
Attackers win.
Good game, you guys.
Have a good night. See you in the other side. Be right back. You're on outside. Okay, well, won that one. So we're trying some FIFA.
Talking on the internet with Manifest v3 coming out. Manifest v3 was a new way of dealing with extensions inside Chrome and Chromium-based web browsers. It is claimed that the whole point of Manifest v3 versus Manifest v2 is to improve the security and privacy of the browsing experience by placing limitations on what extensions can do and how it can access your data. And the reality of how this worked is that it
Use does not need to be at high pressure like the water-cooled reactors in Fukushima. Salt reactors are not at risk of high-temperature steam explosions. While light water reactors typically have a thermal efficiency of around 30%, molten salt reactors have been theorized to achieve efficiencies between 40 to 45%. Molten salt reactors also have the potential for inline fuel processing, which means that while the reactor is operating, the fuel salt can be continuously reprocessed to remove fission products and add new fuel, meaning the machine can run continuously without stopping for refueling. At first glance, you'll notice that the system needs not one, but two pumps. However, these reactors can safely cool down even when power is lost to these pumps. The salt's chemical properties inhibit further nuclear fission as temperatures increase. The mechanisms of this depend on the salt's composition, but generally, as the molten salt gets hotter, it expands. This expansion decreases the volume of fuel in the core of the reactors, and therefore decreases the rate of nuclear fission. Meaning, the hotter it gets, the less fission occurs, helping prevent nuclear meltdown. A freeze plug is also located at the bottom of the liquid salt pool. The freeze plug is designed to melt at a particular temperature. In the event of an uncontrolled rise in temperature, the plug will melt and allow the fuel and molten salt to passively drain into cooled dump tanks. Molten salt reactors are some time away from commercial readiness, and that problem extends to all other fourth-generation reactors, despite significant support from proponents of these technologies. The Fourth Generation International Forum originally proposed that most of these technologies would be ready by 2020. But based on the fact that the only footage available is from the 1960s, that has not come to fruition. Lack of funding and competition from low-cost solar and wind has held back development of these fourth-generation technologies. This problem is only going to continue until nuclear energy addresses its largest problem: cost. Since 2003, MIT has been conducting studies specifically aimed at guiding researchers and policymakers towards a viable future for nuclear energy. In their latest report, they stated that the utmost importance must be given to lowering the cost of nuclear plants. and thus the most promising ideas seek to address these cost issues. While deep geological repositories, uranium reprocessing, and Gen 4 reactors had the brunt of work done during the 1900s, a new design concept started to emerge in the early 2000s: small modular reactors, or SMRs for short. The goal of this design is to miniaturize reactors and convert them into small, standardized modules that can be fabricated in factories. This standardization could not only decrease costs, but inherently increases the reliability and safety as complexity is removed from the manufacturing and assembly while decreasing on-site construction costs. Small modular reactors work in much the same way as regular nuclear plants, but with smaller individual reactors that can work in expandable modules, gradually increasing the output of the power plant with cheaper factory-made modules, rather than building one large, custom-designed nuclear power plant with 1,000 megawatts of electricity capacity. Making the reactors smaller also comes with the big benefit of passive safety. A smaller reactor has more surface area for heat transfer to occur in proportion to the volume of material that needs cooling, meaning natural convection cycles are sufficient to cool the reactor. As the coolant is heated, it rises due to its lower density, establishing a natural flow pattern that drives the cooling process. SMRs are not defined as one type of nuclear reactor or design. Rather, they are a family of designs that take advantage of the miniaturization of the technology. Because of this, no one SMR is like the other. Some use Gen 4 reactors, others use light water reactors. Currently, over 70 commercial small modular reactors are being developed. NuScale may be the most promising of all these companies. Their most recent 77 megawatt module is around 20 meters tall and 4.5 meters in diameter. Each of these modules is lowered into a water bath and set on seismic isolators. This makes sure that any earthquakes do not affect the reactor. All of the components needed for the nuclear reaction are fitted in one steel containment vessel. To create a larger plant, multiple modules are connected together. If power to the reactor is lost, control rods fall automatically in a gravity-driven mechanism, and the containment vessel seals its valves to isolate itself. The water from the core is boiled off as steam, but stays inside the containment vessel. Transferring heat with the outside cooling pool, the steam condenses and cools at the bottom of the reactor vessel, creating a natural circulation of cooling water inside the steel containment vessel. Within seconds, the energy and temperature drop drastically, and within a day, the thermal power drops by 90%, cooling off the last 10% over the course of weeks. And while this all sounds great, we are nowhere near commercial deployment. NuScale is by far the most ahead, but have only managed to create a 1/3 scale model of their power plant. Other countries like Russia, China, France, and South Korea have also invested in creating SMR technologies, but have struggled to find utility customers. Without potential customers, these startups will always fail in a capitalist system. Even NuScale has been dropped by some utility clients as their prices seem to have exceeded expectations. This poses a massive challenge to companies that rely on large-scale, standardized factories to achieve their key market advantage. To build the factory, they need customers. They can't get customers without the factory. Thousands of reactors will need to be built before economies of scale can kick in, and in reality, the exact reason traditional nuclear reactors produce so much electricity is to benefit from the economies of scale. Building a 1,000 megawatt reactor reduces the cost per megawatt, and that's the most important metric in the electricity market. And that's how you get grid operators to buy your electricity, by making it cheaper. NuScale's original price point was $55 per megawatt hour. However, due to inflation, rising steel costs, development issues, and many delays, the costs are now estimated at $100 per megawatt hour. In comparison, onshore wind and solar can be as cheap as $30 per megawatt hour. With the threat of climate change looming over us, we need to ask ourselves, can we rely on a capitalist system to fix a problem driven by capitalism? There is a distinct possibility that these technologies will never succeed without government funding. Energy generation is the foundation of every major world economy, and it is in countries' best interest to invest in these technologies. Nuclear energy provides energy security. The US is not alone in trying to develop the technology. China has embarked on the construction of a functional small modular reactor project here. However, similar to many nuclear ventures, costs have significantly escalated, with the SMR reportedly being twice as expensive in terms of cost per kilowatt hour compared to a traditional large-scale nuclear plant. Canada has formulated a 2020 SMR action plan to help bring down costs and have invested millions of dollars into SMR startups. Developing these technologies will need vastly more money than this, but it's a step in the right direction. Wind and solar are game-changing technologies that we could only have dreamed of being as cheap as they are today 2 decades ago. But we need every tool at our disposal to fight climate change. Not just to decarbonize our energy generation, but to start fighting the effects of climate change, population growth, and global industrialization. From increasing demand for air conditioning, water scarcity driving the need for energy-intensive water desalination, to last-ditch efforts to reverse climate change with carbon capture. Energy is the cause and solution to our problems. The transition from fossil fuels, in my opinion, is the most pressing issue facing humanity. This is an all-hands-on-deck problem. We need our best minds working on it. And I see it as part of my responsibility, with a platform as large as mine, to inspire the next generation of engineers to work on the solutions. Where I try to inspire, I see Brilliant as the perfect partner for follow-through, for education. The courses on Brilliant are perfect for getting you prepared for engineering college, or for simply advancing your current career, from advanced mathematics courses to computer science. They even have courses on the very foundation of energy generation, electricity, and magnetism. Brilliant uses interactive courses that test your knowledge along the way, a platform designed to teach you difficult subjects in the most efficient way possible, using visual interactive examples, and they don't impede your progress when you struggle. If you can't figure out an answer, you can open an in-depth explanation and move on to the next section. These are likely the most universally useful courses to present and future engineers, but there are plenty of other courses on Brilliant: AI, data science, neural networks, and more. You can get access to those courses right now, and all of Brilliant's other curated interactive courses, by clicking the link in the description and on screen right now. You can get started for free for 30 days, and the first 500 people to do so will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription.
Hot on the heels of an extremely fake-looking leak for the Nintendo Switch 2, we now have a whole new rumor cycle going on right now for, once again, talks of a potential PS5 Pro. Though this supposed leak does have, I think, a little bit more merit and interesting things worth talking about. Now, this supposedly comes from a website called Key2 Gaming that cites their own personal sources that don't want to be named because of not supposed to be talking about this kind of stuff just yet, so kind of boils down a little bit to the traditional dude trust me when it comes to this kind of leak. But what does make this interesting is that some of the information here does line up with things we've heard from some previous leaks as well, including some from sources that have been, at least more often than not, correct. A good example being Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming. Previously, he had talked about the Project Q, and it ended up being a real thing, and has also talked about a revised PlayStation coming out later this year, and a Pro happening in 2024, which is something that this newest leak talks about. That late 2024 date is cited in Key2 Gaming's article as well, but the additional details they talk about have to do with some of the goals of this supposed Pro system, claiming that this new system would offer more stable and improved performance on those games that are currently struggling a little bit on the current model PS5 with the same performance profile, while also offering a performance mode that would enable 8K gaming. Other bits of morsels and claims from this article include the idea that this has been in development since 2022, that dev kits would be going out in November of this year, and that the project name for this potential PlayStation system is Project Trinity, which does line up with the naming scheme that PlayStation has used for a lot of their more recent PlayStation products. Some people talk about it being a Matrix reference because PS4 Pro was Neo, PSVR was Morpheus. When you look at the grander scheme of all the different project name titles that PlayStation has been using, including for things like the PS5, it is a bit more of a general Greek mythology theming going on, but the idea of it being Matrix references is also pretty awesome. Now, the concept of something like a PS5 Pro has been a very
popular thing for speculation. I mean, as soon as the original PS5 came out, before it was even actually fully released, we already had people talking about the possibility of seeing this kind of mid-gen refresh happen again. It is a relatively new thing when it comes to gaming consoles because traditionally, while mid-gen refreshes have existed, they've always been focused more on slimming down, making something that is more affordable, maybe offering some kind of additional functionality, but traditionally, mid-gen refreshes have never really been about spec bumps until last gen with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. And since that became a thing last gen, people are really hooked onto the idea of, well, what if we see that happen again for these current gen systems? And that is something that I personally have been really skeptical of and just resistant to the idea of. Because in my mind, honestly, the concept of a Pro mid-cycle refresh right now doesn't make a ton of sense. Yes, there are those games that aren't hitting stable frame rates, and we are starting to see a lot more games release with 30 FPS profiles rather than being able to do 60 smoothly or even above. But I think where I've personally really stumbled on the kind of necessity and reason why for releasing a Pro system is that when you look at last gen, there was a very clear specific reason to do that. 4K. 4K TVs were beginning to become a lot more affordable. It was something that you would actually see people actually pick up for consumer uses. And so having gaming consoles that supported that increased resolution was suddenly more in demand. That's why we got the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. And with this generation right now, it doesn't seem like the timing is quite as right for that. If this article is correct and part of the goal of this system would be to open up an 8K performance option, that obviously is the same kind of sales pitch, right? The current systems only do 4K, despite the fact that the PS5 right on its box does say 8K compatible on it, which is a whole other thing I'm not going to fully dive into right now. But with the PS5 Pro, the idea would be to push 8K gaming and thus justify grabbing 8K TVs, which is especially of interest to Sony because out of the major console manufacturers right now, they're the only one that happens to also make TVs. And so when Sony themselves have 8K TVs to market and sell, suddenly also offering a gaming console that does 8K offers a certain synergy there. And so that actually is one aspect of a Pro maybe happening that I could believe. It's Sony trying to push their own TVs at the same time alongside the consoles. But the timing doesn't really feel right yet to me. I mean, unless we start to see some extremely massive fall-offs in 8K TV pricing, they're not really hitting this same degree of affordability that 4K TVs were once the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X were coming out. They have been dropping in prices, but especially when you're looking at anything beyond the most basic spec level LED TV, you're seeing a lot of very expensive price points easily getting into $3,000 or $4,000. And so while the idea of 8K output is kind of cool sounding, it doesn't really seem like the kind of thing that right now hits a very large market. You know, again, when Xbox One X and PS4 Pro were coming out, 4K TVs were beginning to really drop in price and more people were grabbing them, and we're not really in that phase yet with 8K. I think what's also interesting about this issue is that it does, for PlayStation now, introduce the situation of devs needing to consider having two different profiles to work with. Something that Xbox has already been dealing with by offering the Series S and Series X, but in this case, it would be having a profile that is more along the lines of what is currently considered a standard mainline system, the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and a new, more powerful profile that devs will have to develop around. Something that their own first-party teams would absolutely be jumping on the chance for, but does end up resulting in more SKUs that third-party devs have to deal with and account for. Which is especially interesting considering the fact that as far as competition goes right now, it does sound like Xbox has no interest in doing a pro-level model anytime soon. Spencer has already on record saying that as far as they're concerned, the Series X is their pro-level model, with the Series S being the more affordable consumer option. And right now they're really more focused on just supporting that line of systems, not necessarily introducing a new power level and SKU to deal with. And so before, when the PS4 Pro came out, there was a equivalent from the competition that eventually released afterwards, whereas at least right now, as things stand, the power profile of the PS5 Pro would be something unique to it. The other thing I'm really curious about is that if this is a thing that ends up being real, how well does it actually end up selling? The PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X last gen did sell fairly well, but not nearly as much as their standard line systems, being more expensive ones that were also released later in the generation, therefore not being a necessity for everyone to pick up. It is certainly considered a more luxury style purchase. And PS4 Pro, during some of its initial heavier sales, was basically doing a 1 to 4 sales ratio where basically out of every 5 PlayStation 4s that sold, one of them was a Pro. That was when the system was brand new and had some initial momentum. With the PS5 Pro, depending on a couple other things we obviously don't know yet, like how much it could cost, I'm curious it would see the same degree of ratio in sales because of, again, the situation regarding whether or not people even have 8K TVs to take advantage of that, if that ends up being its main sales pitch. Because again, the main reason why anyone bought a PS4 Pro, sure, the idea of more power sounds nice, but it was achieving that 4K resolution for those people that had 4K TVs to experience it. And while I absolutely know a few dedicated people that are just down to buy the most expensive, most powerful system possible and will do that just because it has that title, it's not exactly a sales pitch that's going to resonate with the greater audience as a whole, but it's definitely a smaller component of the fan base, especially when a number of people already own the current version of the system. Now, the kind of weird thing with rumors and reports like this is that, one of the things we can point to is how it does line up with what some other people are saying, but also it's lining up with what some other people are saying. Part of the reason why I think it's really important to take a heavy grain of salt with any kind of news like this, it's like, yes, sure, other people have claimed that it's being developed and is going to come out around the same time. The concept of being called Project Trinity does line up with some of the other project names that Sony has used, but this is all based on information that we all have access to. And so if someone wanted to plant some seeds of, well, maybe this is a thing that's happening, this ultimately lines up with what a lot of people have already been talking about. Now, on the note of matching alongside other things that companies have been doing, I do find it interesting that if this is a thing that's real, Sony is taking a very aggressive hardware stance this generation. Obviously, the PS5 came out in 2020, and while there's been a bit of a gap between them, really starting this year, there's a lot of hardware that they're releasing and supposedly working on back to back to back. We started the year with PSVR 2, they have revealed Project Q, which is slated to come out sometime later this year. They've announced their own first-party wireless earbuds for using with PlayStation systems. There's been rumor of a revised PlayStation 5 console coming out later this year that does not feature a disk drive but does operate detachable disk drive as an additional accessory that you can make use of. And then with a PS5 Pro slated for late 2024, that's a very dense schedule of product coming out. I try not to comment on every single leak and rumor that comes out for upcoming hardware, but PS5 Pro has been such an interesting case to me because while there absolutely is a segment of the audience that has been clamoring for something like that to come out, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me personally as far as something that Sony needs to do and something the current generation of games really needs, just looking in terms of what's released on the console so far. And with what appears to be mounting additional rumors and leaks that suggest that this is a thing that's actually happening, I just find myself being very curious how it's all going to actually go down if it does release next year. So this is just me going off about some of my thoughts of this whole thing. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Is a PS5 Pro something you're interested in? If you already have a PS5, would you buy a Pro all over again to get more stable frame rates or even a what price point do you think you'd be willing to pay for something like this? Let me know down below in those comments. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys later.
I've been sharing a lot of large gaming sales on this channel for a long time, so our DMs are always open if you guys have a story out there that nobody else has talked about. We usually talk about giant CSGO trades or sales that have happened, some of which have been above $500,000, so it might just blow your mind today when we talk about a game that isn't quite like CSGO.
What the fuck? Hey man, isn't CSGO.
Your mind today when we talk about a game that isn't quite like CSGO. It's a game called Roblox, and it has broken records for a lot of sales of a lot of their items that are collectibles in the game that you can wear throughout any Roblox game, on all of those servers. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of games, so a lot of these collectibles are seen as quite rare. This is a story that happened back in December of last year that blew my mind as we had a Roblox skin, a one individual item sell for $700,000. Yes, I just said that. Whatever you're thinking right now, it's the same way I felt when this story was first sent to me. I have to quickly give a huge shout out to Platinum Studios for sending me this story. Also, there's been other Roblox creators hitting me up wanting to show off their inventories as I've showed off some of these CSGO skins. And even when I share these CSGO stories of $500,000, $250,000 for individual skins, people get quite upset, right? The Web3 comes out, NFTs come out. I enjoy it because, guys, between you and me, I really just don't care on either side. I just think it's funny when other people argue about these kind of things, and I am a CS fan, so although I do find some of these prices ridiculous, I just find it funny when people get really way too heated over all of this. I have to imagine the same is going to happen here as we talk about the item called the Dominus Frigidus. It is the item that supposedly sold for $700,000, equivalent of 200 million Robux. Robux being the cash currency inside Roblox you can use to buy several things. All these servers and games treat them a bit differently and weigh them differently, but in the overall scheme of things, you can also opt out. You can cash out your Robux to USD, the big old dollar. And this apparently was bought by an account who has changed his name every time and again. People refer to him as Steve, and he is the one that bought this one item for 200 million Robux. And you can see it's, to the outside eye, nothing special. To the inside eye of Roblox, I have to imagine, whoa, you see a Dominus Frigidus, you're looking at a rich man or woman around the world. Beyond that, though, you actually look at the Dev to USD exchange rate. So if you have these Robux, or even if you made games on Roblox, you can exchange your Robux for a certain rate. This is not the Google rate when you Google how to buy Robux, the rate that comes up. This is the actual rate where you can exchange these Robux for USD. And if you look it up, around 200 million Robux, you're looking at $700,000. The main speculation being that Steve has had some big old games, or at least one big game, make him quite a bit of Robux or cash, and maybe he wanted to spend it on an item that he thought would get more rare somehow. And so, yes, he spent the supposed $700,000. This story does have a follow-up. Maybe I'll follow this in the future as well, where he actually sold it several months later for a gigantic loss, leaving a lot of people really just curious as to why this even happened in the first place. Although you have plenty of other Roblox items selling for tens of thousands of dollars day in and day out for these high-end traders, this is just something that blew my mind. I mean, sometimes I just can't get my feelings into words for all of you guys. $700,000 for a Roblox item, okay? Like that's all I should need to be said, It's crazy. I just want to meet one of these people and maybe talk to them and maybe just say, hey, I don't need 700,000. Like, I'll do anything for a lot less. What do you guys think about this? A record-breaking, again, it seems to be real, the #1 sale ever in Roblox history, and has to be a top sale in gaming history too. Blows my mind. What do you guys think? Till next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you back here sometime soon.
Oh!
Can I show the story? Can we do it over here? Yeah, I can show it right here. Because I want to see you can get the story, so you don't. No!
Even if this just looks like you're doing squats.
Okay, so. Then, oh, right. Hey, go! Hey, I'm talking. You're gonna do that. Hey, yes, like a little back. What? No, I'll look at those things.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's the sturdy.
That, I can know you do the little knee bend in between.
Yes, I'll teach you the full dance when we're making our macaroni.
Okay, well, wait.
Yes, exactly.
When we're stalling, exactly.
Why have you been there?
Sorority thing.
Wait, what sorority were you in?
Kappa Phi Lambda. It's an Asian one.
Oh, I was South Carolina. Really?
Hey!
Alright, we vagina.
This is the
Vagina, that was our sign. Yeah.
I got at my school.
This. We had a lot, like,
A lot of my friends from my story ended up being lesbians, though, so then we turned into this. Yeah, it was good. We ended up having, I don't know how. Like, our story was cool. We ended up, like, post-college being a lesbian story. Like, my friends weren't lesbians in school. But then, like, there were so many girls from our story who ended up being gay. Yeah. It was like, oh, that's so good. Like, oh, funny, because, like, obviously we would not do our story sign for real. Yeah.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to the WAN Show! Hi. NVIDIA will not make their own version.
How'd you get restarted?
Should we move on? This was something that I figured out with life insurance a long time ago. There was some fancy life insurance. Let's see. Session average of $3 per 8 gigabit. Okay, so 8 gigabit times 8 is going to be gigabytes. So it costs about, at spot prices, mind you, NVIDIA is almost certainly paying less than spot prices, about $25. 25 bucks. So even if they were taking 50 points, I always forget if it's points of margin or percent profit or whatever, even if they were charging double of the actual bill of materials cost to them for this higher memory capacity SKU, then it would still be $450, not $500. This is literally the exact same product plus 25 bucks of DRAM. But instead, they're basically just going, yeah, rather than have a reasonable pricing scheme, we'll just take our ball and go home, and you will just not have a 16 gig card. Because that looks kind of like how it's going to shake down. Hardware Unboxed has said that every NVIDIA partner that they spoke to so far has said they will not be providing review samples either, nor are they sure when their own cards will be available. This thing could not be lower priority. I mean, okay, yeah, our notes here say it's possible that the 4060 Ti 16 gigs recommended retail price of $500 being only $100 less than the 4070 has made many board partners skittish. And that's absolutely true. That makes a ton of sense. How on earth could they possibly hope to sell this thing? And one of the real big challenges is that if you were to go all in and say, yeah, we think the 4060 Ti is going to be a beast, NVIDIA will take a whole bunch of chips, let's go, let's build these things. The fact that NVIDIA themselves is not going to be sitting on any inventory of it means that you could be basically out there on an island by yourself with no recourse, no way to sell this thing. You know what's really confusing to me, too, is you look at all these modders out there that are just upgrading the VRAM on GPUs. What exactly would prevent board partners from just putting $25 worth of VRAM onto a 4060 8 gig?
Do you think there's some agreements there that they can't do something like that?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Are you kidding me? Of course there is. What? That's why they're not doing it. Idiot.
almost certainly. But I mean, okay, riddle me this. I'm MSI. I'm ASUS. I'm Gigabyte, or whoever. I'm someone other than EVGA. I'm an NVIDIA partner.
Right.
I have a 4060 Ti 8 gig, okay? And it's a little bit above MSRP. It's like $439.99, something like that.
Sure.
Okay? You, the customer, take it and plug it into your system. You're like, yep, this is a 4060 Ti 8 gig. I sure hope this core is overclocked a little bit because I paid more than MSRP for this. And then you go, hold on a second. What's this little switch on the card? Oh, that's funny. It doubles the video memory. Is this real? Or is this just fantasy? Oh, it's real. Oh, wow. What a fantastic bonus. Would anything prevent that?
I think so. Because I think there could be agreement saying that you can't change the memory on the board.
Yeah, probably. I just hate the way that NVIDIA just controls everything.
I was going to say, I think it was last WAN show you were talking about how NVIDIA just loves control. NVIDIA's a control company. Yeah, I doubt they're going to just let them be like, oh, we can just double the RAM. That's fine. Probably not allowed.
Shaf2K says the 16 gig is a completely different board design due to the bus width. I don't believe the bus width is any higher. I believe it's just 2 DRAM modules per whatever. Hold on a second. 4060 Ti 16 gig bus width. I could be wrong about that. It could be 256-bit, but I really don't think so because as far as I can tell, that GPU, so by GPU I mean the core, not the card, only supports a 128-bit memory bus. Yeah, no, it's 128-bit. Yeah, they just double up the capacity. In fact, you know what? It's probably just denser chips because 8 gigs is not super high density these days. Because I was going to say before, maybe they just doubled up the memory chips, but no. What I suspect is that these are just higher density chips, and it is literally the exact same thing. Unbelievable. What if board partners just added a physical slot to add more memory like the olden days? You know what? We actually have a video coming that's very much about that, even though I actually, looking back on it, I think we've done a bad job of the title and thumbnail, because it's called starting at is the biggest lie in tech, like the starting at price. And what we're pretty much doing is taking a look at how manufacturers have manipulated starting at their systems in particular seem like a much more appealing option than they really are, when the only way to get them up to a reasonable spec that has enough memory and has enough storage is to give the manufacturer an inordinate amount of money. We do the math on this, and I forget the exact numbers, but I think Apple is making something like 12 times the cost in margin on their SSD upgrades. Some of them, like, just ludicrous, unbelievable profit margins on these things. And Dell was like better, but not by much. And we kind of dig into how the tightly integrated nature of modern system designs makes this far more lucrative and far more possible for these system manufacturers, because you no longer have the option of just buying the base model today and then upgrading it down the line. You either have to pay the ransom extortionate price at launch, or you just don't have more RAM, or in some cases, even more storage. And really? You can't even change the storage? However, there's two sides to every story, right? And there is a performance benefit to the way that they're doing things. A real one, not an imagined one. And that's actually the example that, or the illustration that I use for this is what happened with GPUs. Like, man, this would have been 25, almost like 30 years ago, a long time ago. It's a really good point that was brought up in the chat that GPUs actually used to have expandable memory. And this was in the form of like slots and little like sockets that you could stick RAM chips into and stuff like that. And the reason that they didn't was because of the bandwidth requirements, because of the performance requirements. Every time you add trace lane, and every time you add some kind of pogo pin or LGA or socketed interface, you are adding signal degradation. And the more signal degradation you have, the slower the speeds you have to run your memory at. And for GPUs, then and now, like GPUs can basically never get enough memory bandwidth, which is a big part of why the 4060 series sucks so much, because they're using only a 128-bit bus on what is purportedly a 60 class card. I forget how I started this sentence. The point is they need tons of memory bandwidth. They can never get enough. And so the decision was made that, you know, given that there was probably going to be a fairly appropriate amount of memory anyway, and by the time you needed more memory, that GPU would be out of date anyway, the decision was made to basically move forward with GPUs
Let's
always
go there,
having
Warthog.
solid memory. And those benefits
Who
do
wants
extend
in?
to modern systems. For example, in DDR5, you ever notice that you can't buy a DDR5 sodium that's faster than like 4800?
Yeah.
You can't. But you can buy systems now that have DDR5 running in excess of 7,000 megatransfers per second. ASUS has one where they actually are doing a similar on-package memory chip, similar to what Apple's doing with their M-series silicon, that runs at like 7,700 megatransfers per second or something like that. And is only able to do that because the traces are like this long. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's a little bit more complicated than manufacture a bat, but also manufacture a bat. Because there is no similar argument for doing that with storage. PCI Express can run over distances like so and beyond.
Moving on.
RCD, okay. Why aren't CPUs soldered to the motherboards then? Well, in mobile devices, they are. Although it's for different reasons. One of the big reasons is that you are able to reduce the Z height ever so slightly, giving you thinner devices, and perhaps more importantly, more room for cooling mechanisms above the CPU, which in most mobile devices is the main heat generating component, unless you also happen to have a GPU. As for why they continue to stick with socketed CPUs and motherboards, I mean, it always comes down to cost, doesn't it?
Why?
You just have to assume then that the cost benefit of being able to have one motherboard design that can have dozens of different CPUs in it is greater than the cost benefit or performance benefit, and therefore cost benefit, so you can charge more for it, the cost benefit of soldering the CPU and then being locked with that inventory that is only sellable as a complete package.
Soldering the CPU and the RAM would be so boring.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the high performance NUCs that Intel was doing that they ultimately gave up on. I don't think enthusiasts want that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if enthusiasts will ever is a big word, but I don't know that enthusiasts will ever want that.
You're really not doing much building the computer at that point.
I do propose a solution in the video though. Manchmal Scott says you can get 5600 megatransfer DDR5 sodiums. I haven't seen them.
That's still not as fast.
That's still not as fast as the soldered ones. So it's, the point remains the same, but you are correct. Technically, the very best kind, etc. Anyway, I do propose a solution to all of this in the video, but I'm gonna make you watch it. So anyway, yeah, because it's a good video. It's actually a good video. What were we talking about? Right, 4060 Ti. Our discussion question is, if NVIDIA is going to put so little effort into making this thing a success, why release it at all? I don't know. It's a really good question. I guess
all of these things are such a far run out.
Yeah, I guess they don't want to pull a film studios.
Yeah.
Just be like, yep, we're done making Scooby-Doo sequel, but we're actually, did you hear about that?
Yeah. They just didn't release it, right?
It is
garbage can.
It's not just kind of done. Like, it's not just shot like Batgirl, where it's completely shot but not edited. It is actually finished. And the reason that it's finished, so people were actually working on this film for some period of time. After the decision had been made, they were working on this film.
They need to get it to a certain point for like a higher tax credit or something?
No, it was because their contract was that they would finish it. So they wouldn't get paid, like outside animators or something like that. I forget the exact details, but basically their contract stipulated that they were to deliver this finished work. So the film was done. It was in the final stages when they made the decision to pull the plug on it. And then it will never see the light of day, even though it is completely done, because it was more beneficial tax-wise to write it off than to release it and have it make almost no money, which is... Oh, apparently the movie got leaked.
I was gonna say,
that's pretty...
These are the scenarios where you always just really want someone to leak it.
Yeah, that's... I support that. Man.
So that's good.
The film industry is in a very... Have you been following that?
Only vaguely, because I no longer have family members in the film industry, so I mean, it matters, but like, it's not... It doesn't directly impact me as much anymore.
It is in a wild place right now, man. Like, it's...
Writer's strike is, I think, one of the most brutalizing in both directions strike that I've seen of any strike in a long time.
Well, that and the actors jumped in with them. So basically, you cannot produce anything, and I am deeply worried about the situation because I don't think that they have as much leverage as they think they do. They're going on strike at a time when the studios are losing money on major releases. I mean, when's the last time that Disney actually made money on anything? Like, even major tentpole productions are not bringing in the kinds of profits that they used to. And so, you know, I was reading a few weeks ago about how CW basically pulled out of Vancouver. So that was one of the networks that used to shoot a bunch up here in Vancouver and was one of the cornerstones of the local production industry. And they were just like, yeah, we're like basically canceling all of our scripted shows because they're too expensive. Forget it. See you later. So the networks are looking for excuses to cut costs. And then you have a whole bunch of people voluntarily going, okay, you don't have to pay us right now. And then the networks are kind of sitting there going, like, did you see that alleged quote about basically starving them out? So something that came out today is that the Screen Actors Guild released guidelines for influencers, for, you know, how to, well... I really think they could have done this in a more...
What the fuck? What is wrong with you?
Because, you know, frankly, I'm not a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I will never be a member of the Screen Actors Guild, so, like, you actually cannot dictate the terms of engagement to me. And it
was done pretty poorly.
Their wording's pretty aggro.
Yeah.
If you so much as post a picture of yourself putting on pink shoes to go watch the Barbie premiere, then you are in violation of the picket line, and you're a terrible person.
You will be banned from ever joining the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, I am not good enough to join the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, and
I will never be an actor.
And also, like, are you kidding me? You know, this isn't even a paid engagement or whatever. But regardless of their tone, and regardless of whether they actually are the boss of me or not, you know, I fully support them, even if I feel like the battle is
concerning,
pretty worrying. You know when you're in like Total War, right? And there's that bar in the bottom that's like green and red for the strength of your remaining forces versus the... Thank you.
When's the last time you played Total War?
Don't worry about it.
When was it? What?
I was just goofing around.
Whoa.
Yeah, we pulled out a Total War game for like a video, and I was like, oh, I love I love playing Total War, and then like I went home and played some Total War, and I lost so bad because I hadn't touched it since Rome 1. Total War.
See, that lines up for me. That makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have. Oh, I don't make these decisions anymore. I've had a vision that I will have a conversation with our new CEO, that I think we should, to the greatest degree, the greatest extent that we can, at least for, you know, some reasonable period of time. You know, let's say 3 months to start, and we'll go from there. You know, we want to be in full support, and that means not only not taking money from any productions. I mean, that one's fairly obvious in terms of crossing the. But we also just won't be promoting them in any way. Even if
they aren't putting on pink dresses?
Unpaid capacity. I mean, you're wearing a pink shirt.
Ah.
You might be wearing a pink shirt. No, yellow. Yellow today. LTTstore.com. But yeah, we want to support them to the greatest degree that we can. So we're gonna do our best.
To be clear, this is not because of Barbie movie. This is because next weekend is LTX, so I was trying to hype it up.
Whaleland.
Yeah, exactly.
Whaleland.
This is the Whaleland shirt from last time. Whale. So I'm wearing it because of LTX, not because of Barbie. Just you know, not supporting, you know, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Have you guys done any promos or sponsorships with any studios in the past? Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Actually, not very often. It's kind of surprising.
Surprisingly infrequent.
Yeah, like the number of video game movies and stuff like that come out, and it doesn't occur to them to go to gaming and tech influencers. I'm just like, do people even try?
We tried doing a thing with Hot
Wheels. Am I a joke to you?
And I thought Hot Wheels was going to be all over it. And I think they were just like, oh, we don't see the crossover. But then they did a thing with Forza, and yes, obviously Forza's racing, whatever. But I'm like, it's a game on PC that looks great. People like building really nice PCs to play Forza with. Like, what? How do you guys not see the crossover? There's people that like Hot Wheels. Like, come on. Oh. Anyways, should we move on?
Yeah, keep it chill in the chat, guys. You know, union versus no union is not a black and white issue.
No.
If you think it is, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
It's nuanced and complicated, and every situation is a little bit different. And this situation is very challenging. That's all I have to say about that. It's time for a couple merch messages. If you guys are wondering, super chats, Twitch bits. Those are not the way to interact.
Fucking bad.
To interact with the show is with merch messages. All you got to do is head over to ltdstore.com, where we actually have a couple pretty exciting things to talk about this week. You head over to ltdstore.com, and in the cart, you will see a box with to fill in a merch message when we're live, and it will pop up down here, thanks to Producer Dan. Boop. Or Producer Dan will reply to your message with his fingers like that. Oh, my button's not working. I can't show Producer Dan anymore. Oh, nope, it's working now. Cool. Okay, or Producer Dan will reply, or he will curate a couple for me and Luke to talk about. Dan, do you have a couple for us to maybe show how merch messages work?
Yeah, sure. Let's see what we've got here. Question for Luke. I recently started a job as a full-stack developer for the government. I'm wondering how you feel about the differences between private versus public and switching between the two.
Oh, like private and public sector work?
I believe so, yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked for public? No, I don't think I have a very satisfactory answer here. They're both very legitimate lines of work. I think there's a immense amount of red tape to jump through on the public sector side of stuff.
That could be an immense amount of red tape on the private sector side of things, too.
Exactly. Depends what you're doing, and it also depends on where you are at in the chain. If you're working in public sector, but you are just, dealing with the tickets, maybe there's no red tape for you to jump through. You're just doing what you have to do. So, I don't know. I'm sorry. I really don't have a lot to say. I have no issue. Like, if someone applied here and they had public sector experience, I'm just going to count that as the same as someone who had private sector experience. Like, it doesn't mean anything different to me personally. It might be particularly interesting depending on where you worked in the public sector and what you were working on, but that's the same for private. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's some general rules that you can kind of apply. I mean, at least here in Canada, that's all I can really speak to, but here in Canada, public sector workers tend to get, for example, pensions that are
very good,
very generous compared to what is typical in the private sector, where as far as corporations are concerned, I'm sorry, you're not working for me anymore? Why am I giving you any money?
Yeah, I also see people interpreting public sector work as like you're now on like the track. You just stay in public sector forever, and as long as you don't massively screw up, you'll just have a job.
No, I don't think it's necessarily like that, and I don't think you necessarily have to have that attitude about it.
I think you might have interpreted that in a way that I was not trying to say it, or maybe I said it poorly.
I don't know.
But I wasn't saying it as a negative thing.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were kind of saying that people just feel like they can check out and just like coast.
Oh no, not necessarily. Just like if you just keep pushing, it's like very high job security. basically.
Right.
But not that you should necessarily slack off. I know of people that have been laid off in public sector. It does happen.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, yeah, good pension, good benefits. Like it's a good place to be in. But you could get in a better place in private sector.
There's going to be a ceiling.
Yeah.
There's going to be a ceiling in the public sector, so there's no free lunch, right? There's always trade-offs, and like we were actually trying to recruit someone for only tangentially related position from the public sector, and when they did the math, it was very challenging for them. They were kind of going, okay, so right, the wage is higher, but the odds of the government of British Columbia existing in 40 years when I'm reaching the end of my career is somewhere close to 100%. The odds of Linus Sebastian and Yvonne Ho existing in that time is pretty good, but not as close to 100%. And this is something that they need to factor in, along with the differences in pay today versus the long-term benefit. I think that something people don't necessarily account for is that pensions look a little bit more generous than they actually are.
No, they won. You guys
This
suck.
was something that I figured
Holy
out with life insurance a long time ago. There was some fancy life insurance product that someone was trying to sell us, where basically when it matures, you actually get back everything you paid into it. And I was like, how does the math on that work? It's like, oh, right, because they've been taking my money for 35 or 45 years or whatever, and they're just giving me back.
You give me $5 now. I'll give you $5 in 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the math. So when you look at whatever your pension is, the math might look really, really favorable today. But if you were to just take money and squirrel it away now and build yourself a nest egg that is made up of an investment, say for example, that pay dividends, then how does that pension compare? And pensions aren't as sure thing as it feels like they used to be. You look at the way that
so they're not.
Yeah, you look at the way that public pension funds are just getting the crap kicked out of them sometimes, and it's scary, man.
I read a whole article on how they've.
You read a whole article?
Yeah.
Did you?
Whole article. I'm a good boy.
Gold star.
I read it's on the of pensions specifically.
Right.
And how they just kind of ruined the whole time. They used to be a lot more secure, they used to be a lot more guaranteed, and now they're being so trashed. To the point where retiring is kind of scary because you just have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, especially because with how long people are living these days, you could be retired for 70 years. Assuming you retire at 65 and live to 100, which is obviously unusual.
Not common, but happens.
But not unheard of.
Yeah.
And you do not want to be 98
and totally broke.
And completely flat broke, right? That's a bad time.
Yep.
All right, Dan, want to hit us with another?
Yeah, sure thing. Let's see. Hi, LLD. Can you talk about the first time or the worst time you have accidentally violated an NDA?
Ooh, I think one of the worst ones was with the Pixel. I think it was the Pixel. 4A or something like that, Pixel 4A or Pixel 5A. I
went up a day early.
or
Right?
3A or something. I don't know. I was using it early, and I was on WAN show, and I pulled out my
I
phone.
was gonna say it's probably on LAN show.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay, companies. I understand. He does it to me too.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's been an accident every time, but there's been at least a handful of times that I have accidentally violated an NDA.
I think there was a video that was accidentally scheduled 1 day early, or like 1 hour early, or 1 minute early, or something.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know what it was.
It's one of those things where a common time for NDAs to expire is 6 a.m. Pacific time, and the reason for that is that it's still previous evening. Whichever way the date line goes, I can never remember. No, it's following. It's still the following evening in like Southeast Asia and China, and then it's still daytime in Europe. So it's like, yeah, it's like morning in Europe. No, it's afternoon in Europe, morning to like late morning in North America, and it's like still evening in Australia and like China and stuff. And so it's like an ideal time from a global, sending out emails and publishing videos standpoint.
Hey, visual stuff.
But most people in this company don't get up at 6 in the morning, so we will sometimes have videos that are just scheduled to go live, and nobody's there looking at them. And if they, include some information that they weren't supposed to, or if they go up at 5 instead of 6 because we clicked the wrong button or whatever, and people try to contact us and we're asleep, right? So, sorry, I guess. Yeah. It's not really much that we can do about that. I'm just trying to find if there's anyone that has... Searching my inbox for NDA brings up... here's result 1 to 100 of many. Yeah. So I was trying to find if anyone, complained to me about anything, but I don't see anything. Generally speaking, we try to be pretty clean about that stuff because it's a really quick way to not be able to get review samples anymore, breaking embargo, or violating a non-disclosure agreement. And to be clear, I know there's some people that are sort of just like anti any kind of agreement between media and manufacturers, but it's like, okay, what's your
you can't get review samples at all.
Yeah.
NDAs.
What's your proposed solution? They have magical fairies that they give the phone or the graphics card to that all depart their headquarters at different times to ensure that you account for the different flight times to all the different places that these devices need to be delivered so that they'll all get it at exactly the same moment. You want Mark Rober to design packaging that literally is indestructible until it can be opened at exactly the same time. Like, you got to be realistic, right? They do their best to get everything out at kind of the same time-ish, and then they have NDAs to ensure that everyone has a similar amount of time to work on their articles or their videos or whatever.
What?
Spartan Beans, what's up, bro? You just standing there, bro. What the fuck are y'all doing?
I'm over it. What were we talking about again?
Alright.
Oh, yeah, sure, let's do a couple more topics.
It's all good.
Okay, do you want to talk about your proposed legislation that requires platforms to snitch on their users?
This one is
I'm gonna just try to get
really
kills,
rough once you start trying to break down like how it would work at all. The Senate Judiciary Committee has forwarded a piece of legislation, the Cooper-Davis Act, that would obligate online communication services and social platforms to report users to the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, if the platforms suspect them of being involved in criminal drug activity.
Okay, the problem with this is that, like, the definition of criminal drug activity is,
just standing, bro.
I think we could say outdated at best.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. The bill does not explicitly require
Imbalanced? Maybe?
It's also especially.
Are you talking to me?
Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Though. Oh, it's all over the place.
It's so weird. And like in some places it'll be better, and I don't understand how this works sometimes. I'm not in that area. I don't do those things.
Some grenades on them.
But in some places it'll be federally illegal. Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's usually the other way around, where it's legal federally but illegal stateside. I think it might be able to be the reverse as well, but I don't know how that works. I don't know.
The bill does not require, this is in quotes, the bill does not require providers to seek out illegal activity by users, end quote. But it creates incentives for companies to, for companies to surveil their users and does require that once providers are aware of this activity, they must report it or else face steep fines, legal liability, and potential criminal prosecution. Again, in quotes, proponents of the bill say that it would help crack down on illicit drug markets that have been proliferating on social media platforms. End quote. But privacy advocates have criticized the bill as potentially furthering, weakening, and in quotes, already inadequate privacy laws. Strongly agree with that, and undermining encryption.
Yeah, this is kind of brutal. Like, I'm looking at it going, you know, if someone, okay, look, I don't personally partake, so my ignorance may be pretty ignorant, but, you know, I could see someone using Facebook Marketplace, for example, hypothetically, to do some kind of transaction, let's say. You know how, okay, for example, you can't buy lawn darts on eBay.
Okay.
So everyone who wants to sell lawn darts on eBay sells the box for lawn darts. And oh, by the way, if lawn darts happen to be inside it, well, whoops, I had no idea. So, like, I could see people, you know, selling pictures of a marijuana leaf on Facebook Marketplace, and, like, that's code for, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a thing, maybe it's not a thing. I legitimately actually don't know. But then,
What a
you know,
dumbass.
where's the line for this? If Meta,